So now we are going to make chocolate chip cookies, and this version is using eggs, and we'll also be doing the eggless version in another lesson. Now this particular chocolate chip cookie, I am going to show you 3 different variations. So one will be the plain one, scooped without any filling, and the second one is going to be with filling, and for which we have already frozen the hemisphere of the peanut butter and the Nutella, and we are also going to try another version of sandwiched cookie, for which we will be using the tart rings, and I am going to show you how we could have properly sandwiched with a filling, same Nutella and peanut butter, and then bake with a filling, and so when we take it out we will know how the filling is going to be. Okay, so now I have the ingredients ready here, and this egg version of the chocolate chip cookie, I am going to do the plain version as well, and then the sandwiched one. And for the sandwiched one, I am going to scoop them at the end of making the dough and going to freeze it. So once it is firm, it is easier for me to take out the frozen hemisphere dough of the chocolate chip cookie, and I can put in the Nutella, frozen Nutella, and then again make them into balls so the filling goes inside and the whole thing is not too soft. So freezing step is important if you are going to add any filling into the chocolate chip. So the plain ones are going to get baked after the dough has been made and scooped out into the baking tray, and the filled ones, for that we need to scoop them and freeze that first, and then there is another step where after the hemisphere dough scooped ones are frozen, we will be filling them back again and then go into the oven. So there is one step that we need to do to bake the filled ones, but the plain ones can go into the oven right after we have scooped, or there is also another step which I will be telling you at the end, where you will be have to chill the hemisphere dough of the cookie for about 10 to 15 minutes, so it doesn't like really flatten out during baking, because there is leaveners here, there is baking powder, and we have, though the cookie is just going to volumize, become bigger, and it is going to need more space for it to expand during baking, and you don't want it to just go like really very flat. So once the cookies have been, the dough has been made and you're going to have it scooped, even if they are plain cookies, it is good that it goes into the fridge for 15 minutes, so the dough firms up again, and from the fridge it goes into the oven directly, and that way it has a slower heat getting transformed while baking, and so it doesn't flatten out, but we still have a nicely shaped cookie, and then it is very chewy on the inside and then crispy on the outside. So that chilling step is also very important, even if you're going to do plain chocolate chip cookies. So I have the ingredients ready here. Let's move on to actually making the dough now. Okay, so I have the butter. Okay, and then there are 2 different sugars that we are going to use in the chocolate chip cookie. So that is brown sugar and there is plain regular sugar, and we have the egg, and then that's vanilla, and the dry ingredients here are the all-purpose flour, the baking powder, and then the salt, and then we have the chocolate chips here. I have used the Calabo pellets because they are really nice, instead of using the artificial ones. The regular chocolate chip cookie, sometimes I feel doesn't add a lot of value to the cookie because they are not chocolate, they come from the artificial compound variant of the chocolate. Okay, so if you do not have the access to Calabo pellets, you can anytime just get the chocolate bars, the actual chocolate, the couverture, and chop them into finer pieces. So they are in the size of these chocolate chips, or you could also have bigger chunks. So in place of this, just weigh the chocolate that you've chopped into chunks and then add them into the dough, instead of using the regular chocolate chip that you get from the baking supply store. Okay, so to begin with, we are going to sift the dry ingredients. I'm just setting aside the butter sugar because this is a creaming method as well. Okay, so I have a bigger bowl to which the flour goes in first. Baking powder, and then the salt. I'm going to sift it and combine the baking powder with salt. And this dry ingredients I'm going to set it aside until that is ready to use. Also, I have the baking tray lined with parchment paper. You can also have a silicone mat on the baking tray, and you need to put your oven to preheating at 180°C, and you can start that by the time you are preparing for the dough. But then the oven has to keep running until the tray in which the cookie dough is there to go into the oven, right? You cannot have the oven stopped because you think 10 minutes of preheating is enough. It doesn't work like that. The oven has to keep on running in the same temperature that the recipe calls for until we are ready to put whatever we have to bake into the oven, right? So as for the first step, I am adding butter. The butter is quite soft. If it is like quite firm, we need to beat the butter until it becomes light. But then if you have a soft butter, then we can add the butter, sugar. Now I have two kinds of sugars here, right? The white sugar and then the brown sugar. I'm adding both of them in, and then this step, like I said, is a creaming method. So we want the sugars and the butter to cream well and become pale and light, and obviously this step is going to take about 5 minutes, but I'm going to take out every minute and then show how the texture changes from wherever it is now to go about like 5 minutes when it is going to become cream, pale, light and fluffy. Just want to check and show how it looks now. So you can see the color has not started to change. You can see that it is quite in the light brown shade. Okay, now it needs to go on and beat. Now let's check how the color changes from this brown, and then it's going to get lighter from what you see now. So let me check how it looks. Okay, so this has gotten a little paler than what it was in the previous stage. Okay, and I'm just going to scrape down the bowl. And then I'm going to continue beating for about 2 to 3 more minutes because I want the texture to get even more lighter than this. You can see this is almost about the end of 4 minutes, and let's check the consistency. So it has gotten paler, right, from what we saw initially, but then it is good that we beat this for some more time. So I'm just going to scrape down fully and continue to beat. So maybe 2 more minutes. Let's see how more pale it is going to get. So now it looks good, kind of really light and fluffy, like how it should be. Okay, so the lightness is like when you're scraping, it will be easier than what it was when you started off with. Okay, so this is what we are looking at. Okay, so at this stage, we'll have to be adding the egg. So that one egg I'm just going to add in now and beat this for about 1 minute, okay, because we want the egg to get completely incorporated and we need to allow that 1 minute time and not lesser than that. Okay, so the egg has been beating there for about a minute and then you can see the egg is fully incorporated, and then on top of this I'm going to add the vanilla extract. Okay, and then I'm going to beat just until the vanilla gets incorporated fully. You don't have to beat for long, just a few seconds, because we just want the vanilla to get incorporated. You know, for a few seconds is enough beating. Okay, so now I have the dry ingredients sifted, right? So I'm just going to add all of it in. And then I'm just going to use the spatula and fold and mix it first, because while beating you don't want the dry flour to splatter out. Okay, so first make it like a wet crumble, have all the flour mixed up with the butter and the sugar mixture, and then after this we should not overbeat. That is very important. Do not overbeat after the addition of the flour. Okay, so I'm just going to run the beater and beat until this whole thing comes together, and then I'm just going to drop in the chocolate chips and have the beater running while we have the chocolate chips also getting incorporated, so it just gets mixed up evenly. Okay, so putting it back into the stand mixer and running it for a few seconds on low speed. So now you can see it is incorporating, but then running it for a few more seconds is just going to make it over beaten. Okay, so now at this stage is when I'm just going to add in the chocolate chips as well. Okay, and then run the beater for 5 to 10 minutes. Let's see how long it is going to take for the chocolate chips to get incorporated, but not more than 10 minutes. So that's it. You can see the chocolate chips are also fully incorporated. So I'm removing the bowl from the stand mixer. Scraping off the paddle attachment or your beater, just remove any excess dough. Just going to give it one last mix to go to the bottom of the bowl. So I'm going to divide this between 2 trays. I have a ice cream scooper that I'm going to use. So I'm going to roughly divide this dough, but then you can bake the whole thing into one form whenever there is a requirement. Okay, So that is the ice cream scoop. Okay, so this ice cream scoop has this attachment where when I press, the scoop is going to come. So if I have to scoop, right, I'll just go fill this entire cavity of this ice cream scoop and then hold it. As I keep it there, I use this knob with my thumb and then I press it, so it just pops out of the ice cream scoop. Okay, just going to give enough space because it is going to expand as we've added leaveners in this dough. Okay, so let me have 5 here because this is going to go into the fridge for 15 minutes like I said, and then directly into the oven. Okay, so I'm just going to have 5 in this one, and I have another baking tray as well. Into this I'm going to scoop and leave it here in the freezer. This one goes into the freezer because I want it firm, because I'm going to add the filling inside. The filling is also in the freezer getting firmed up, which is nothing but the Nutella and the peanut butter. So this anyway I'm going to remove from wherever it is and I'm going to reshape it together with the filling. So for me, spacing for that one additional step, keeping it closer is fine because this is not the spacing that is needed for baking. Okay. Okay, so this I'm going to place it in the freezer and then get back once this is firmed up well, and when the filling is also firmed up, then this one I'm going to continue showing how to add the filling and then reshape it and then put it back into the oven. That one step is remaining for this half. So this half is ready to go into the oven, but we have one step that it needs to go into the fridge for 15 minutes and firm up, after which from the refrigerator it needs to go into the oven directly at 180 degree Celsius. It should be preheating as well, and it can get baked between 18 to 20 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius. But do not look for the timing alone, look for the outer edges and they have to start browning and the top will still be pale. The outer edges getting golden brown is the time that you need to stop baking. But in between the 18 and 20 minutes, if you see the outer edges color has not changed, then you will continue to bake for every 2 to 3 minutes and check for the outer edge turning golden brown, and then you feel that this batch is ready. And I'm going to show once this has been baked after chilling and going into the oven. For this batch I'm going to get back once it is firmed up in the freezer for 15 minutes and I have the filling ready, and I'm going to show you how to fill and change the shape and then get this prepared for baking. So the chocolate chip cookies have been baked well. So this is the egg version and this is the eggless version. So I'm going to check the bottom. It looks very mild golden brown. Okay, so that is what we are going to look at. The edges here on the top, you're not even able to see much. Okay, and then the edges here are turning brown. Okay, and this is the egg version. You can see the edges here are turning golden brown. Here that's golden brown, and then the bottom looks golden brown as well. So this is what we are looking at to see whether the cookies are done well. Now I'm just going to get the egg one and the eggless one, and I'm going to just open them out. Okay, so that is how it is going to look like on the inside. You can see the bottom here, this layer is golden brown, and then the color is not changed much. It is chewy on the inside, right? And then it is crispy on the outside, and you can see the chocolate chips that are just popping out, studded inside the cookie dough, and I mean the cookie itself. Now this is the eggless one, which I'm going to open out. The texture is almost the same. It is very close, where you can see the brown edge on the bottom, and then the top is all chewy on the inside. And again, the chocolate chips that we have added is just studded in properly. Okay, so so that is how you make the plain chocolate chip cookie. We have also the other variations, but this one is the plain chocolate chip cookie. And as I said, we've added the Calabo pellets. Now if you have to add and call it chocolate chip, and adding the smaller chocolate chips that are available in the baking supply store doesn't add a lot of flavor. So in that case, you could use the chopped chocolates itself, the couverture, into a little bigger chunks or even smaller, finer pieces. And if you're going to use bigger chunks, you could call it chocolate chunk cookies. Into finer pieces, you could still continue calling it chocolate chip cookie, but then use that in the recipe as we've done. So we've come to the end of this beautiful chocolate chip cookie lesson, which is the plain version.